dancing so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright.
Hello everybody and welcome to South African Motorcyclist's first review video for 2025. Like I said at the beginning of the year, we are changing our format up a little bit. We're looking at new ways of doing things and stuff like that. But today we've got a very interesting set of bikes. We have the Honda Africa Twins, and the Honda Africa Twins, you know, we've had them out in the market in South Africa and Southern Africa for a while now. From the actually all the way quite a way back, but recent development, the 1000cc, and then from the 1000cc we've now come over to the 1100s. We did the 1100s when they launched, and they've facelifted them now. I'm gonna call it that. They've done a bit of chopping and changing on them a little bit, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The biggest difference between the two, the previous 1100 and the new 1100, Honda's claiming that there's a 7% increase in the torque power and torque delivery. I can definitely feel the difference. There is a little bit more grunt on it. You don't really notice it, but it is definitely there. The new DCT gearbox they've done something. We don't know exactly what they've done to the DCT gearbox. They're saying that it's the same DCT gearbox, but they've done something from what I can feel on the DCT. It's a huge difference. It's better. For those of you that have seen previous videos or heard me talk about the DCT gearbox from Honda, I'm a big fan. I'm a huge fan of the DCT gearbox. I was a bit skittish at first, but I must say I am a huge fan of the DCT gearbox, and I can feel the difference in the DCT gearbox. The DCT gearbox is definitely, it's just so much better. It's incredible. It's smoother, it's more responsive, it's quicker, it's adjusting quicker to just normal drive mode as opposed to the manual mode, which is also very nice personally. That's just what I've picked up on it. And you know, I mean, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but I mean, if you look at the sales of the DCT gearbox in Europe, from when they first launched the DCT gearbox to current, they've had a serious climb in terms of sales of the DCT gearbox, because the DCT gearbox is actually that good. It's a case of breaking the norm, breaking the stigma, and trying something new. And the guys that are trying the DCT gearbox from manual are now going over to DCT. You know, obviously on my side it's a completely different ball game, but you'll see we've got the two bikes, both bikes on this video. It's the Africa Twin, and then it's the Africa Twin Adventure Sport. So the previous 1100, just a quick one, that confused me a little bit now when I was testing these two. The Africa Twin was more the street version originally, and obviously the Adventure Sport was the, like, dare I say it, like a GS versus a GS Adventure. So you had a Twin and then a Twin Adventure. Somewhere along the lines they've changed that up a little bit now. The normal good old-fashioned Africa Twin is now more dirt orientated. It's more the one that you're going to take out into the bush. 30mm higher road ground clearance on the engine, slightly higher. It's running a 21 on the front as opposed to a 19 on the front. So obviously a 21 on dirt, if you are doing dirt riding, a 21 tends to handle a bit better on the dirt than what the 19s do. One thing that they have changed, actually talking tires, is that now the Africa Twin comes completely tubeless. The previous model, I know the 1000, I'm not sure, if I'm not mistaken, the 1100, the first edition of the 1100 already brought in the tubeless tires, but I know the 1000cc's actually had tubes. It's a 50-50 situation. It's a 50-50 situation of whether to buy a tubed or tubeless, but we're not going to get into that right now. And then the biggest difference obviously is with the ground clearance and stuff like that of the normal Africa Twin as opposed to the Adventure Sport. You got the higher ground clearance, you're just higher, you're lighter, it's more dirt orientated, it's more windgat, it's more aggressive, it's more responsive, it's more cheeky, if you want to call it that. There's so many words that we can use to do that. The only thing I don't like about it for going out into the dirt with is obviously the fuel tank. The just normal Africa Twin has got a 18.8. Sorry, I'm busy looking up at I'm looking at the specs actually. It runs an 18.8 litre tank. Is it? Yeah, 18.8 litre tank on the Africa Twin. The Adventure Sport, however, sports a 24.8 litre tank. So that obviously also counters the weight. It adds to the weight. And I mean that's a big difference. Like what, 6 liters? No, more. Is it? No, 6 liters. 6 litre difference. 6 litre difference when you're out in the sticks makes a big difference. Although at the same time, at the price tag of the new Adventure, you don't really want to be taking that into the bush. You really don't want to be taking that into the bush, unfortunately. That's just one of those things. It does have a lot more expensive components in the sense of the suspension system. The Africa Twin runs good old-fashioned cartridge, inverted telescopic in the front, and obviously the single at the back, where your Adventure Sport is also running the telescopic, but it's now running a fully electronic suspension, which is very nice, I must say, for road, to be able to chop and change your suspension settings the way that you can on it is incredible, and you actually feel it changing. It's really remarkable to feel, and it's smooth. It's really smooth. But yeah, getting back to point is that the pitch at the moment is that the Adventure Sport is more the touring version, where the Africa Twin is the more single guy having fun, having a blast. Still has the touring capabilities. Both actually have the touring capabilities. Both have the capabilities of tarmac, dirt, go for it, have fun. But obviously in different settings, if that makes sense what I'm saying. The Adventure Sport's not the one that you're going to go and break in the bush, or try and break in the bush, because I mean that's one thing I'll give these bikes as well. They are built solid. You're going to try and break it, you're not going to break it, I promise you. We've tried. I just hope Honda doesn't see this. They probably will. But yeah, so I mean they're built strong, they're built to last, they're built to handle. It's Honda product. It is what it is. These top tier manufacturers, that's what they do. And yeah, so it comes down to pricing mostly. Your DCT on the Twin Sport, on the Adventure Sport, you're looking at about 353 700. That's new, the DCT. Where with the Africa Twin DCT you're sitting at 292 600. It's a big difference. So it's a chunk of change that you're paying different. But I mean, take into account electronic suspension, electronically adjusted and controlled suspension, bigger fuel tank, more tour orientated, easier to get the pannier bags on and off, slightly different seating position for a pillion. The normal Africa Twins back seat's got a bit more of a tip on it, where the Africa Twin Adventure Sport, it's obviously a little bit lower, so it's a little bit more comfortable for your pillion. So yeah, there's a couple of changes, a couple of good changes. They're still selling the bike, unfortunately, with the big bulky hand controls. I know when they first brought out the 1100, it was something that I was like, the 1000cc bike, you had all the controls, you had a lot of buttons, but they were small, nice, compact. It wasn't these big blocks of plastic on the handlebars, which unfortunately with the 1100 they have done. It's this huge, massive block of plastic, and I understand their thought pattern behind it, and that, you know, it makes it easier, bigger, makes it easier for gloves. But unfortunately, because it's so big, and to try and obviously fill out the space nicely, they've spaced the buttons very far away. It would be wonderful to see them implement something like the BMW joystick. Obviously they can't do that exact thing, but I mean something smaller, compacted a little bit more, because it takes away from the overall appeal of the bike. Personally, it's about the only thing that I've actually really got against this bike at the moment is those hand controls. The rest of the bike, it's Honda Africa Twin. They've got a long history of the model. They've definitely done it justice, in my opinion. It's very underrated. It's very undersung, unfortunately, from the industry side. But they're solid. They really are solid bikes. I mean, to do long distance touring on the road, to do dirt trails, desert riding, all the type of riding that we do in South Africa. Rain, you know, with a good set of tires, you got a very solid bike. Now that it's completely tubeless, especially for the road riding guys, which unfortunately most of the time these types of bikes do stay on the road. There's very few of us that are going to go and spend 350,000 rand on a bike that we're going to go and beat up in the bush. Not all of us have that luxury in life. So, you know, I mean, these bikes do tend to stay on the road, regularly serviced, regularly maintained and stuff like that. So the tubeless tires do make a big difference. It's easy to repair on the side of the road. It's not a pain in that you have to, you know, carry additional tools to get to a tube, to fix a tube if a tube pops or something like that. But then at the same time, tube tire also is lacquer. It's actually easier to patch. You don't have to worry as much. There's lots of pros and cons, but we're not going to get into that. So yeah, guys, so personal opinion, if you are on the market for a new adventure bike, take a look at the new Africa Twins from Honda. If you are still old school, manual gearbox, do yourself a favor, and if you do manage to get to a dealership where you can take a demo for a ride, I'm not saying buy it, not saying set your heart and stone on it, give it a go. Ask him to take a DCT, the dual clutch transmission. Ask him to take one for the spin, experience it, take it from there. Personally, I'd rather, I mean, just to give you an idea, the Adventure Sport difference between the Adventure Sport manual versus the Adventure Sport DCT, that's 315,000 without DCT, 350, call it 354 with the DCT. Personally, after experiencing the DCT and doing as much mileage as what I've done on a DCT actually as well, also a big thing to play in, that's what, 35, call it 40k difference. The 40k is worth it. Personally, the 40k is worth it for a bike that you're going to keep for the next 15-20 years easy, eyes closed, not have a problem with. It's worth it. But go out to them, take a look, get to your nearest Honda, give them a test, try out the DCT, go against your better judgment, try the DCT and realize that it wasn't better judgment, it was bad choice not going for the DCT in the first place. But we'll leave that at that. Awesome guys, thank you very much, have a wonderful one, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.